Kruthi, I am so excited to speak with you. Nicole has just told us so much about you,
Oh,
and it's very exciting to me to
thank you.
speak with someone who, especially a woman who says, "I see a problem here, and I'm going to fix it. I'm going to do something about it." So I love it. So tell us your story. How did you? What was your experience learning history in middle school and high school?
Mhm. This is going to sound terrible, but I only really became interested in women's history when I joined the National Women's History Alliance. And I know how background that sounds, becoming interested in history after joining a history group. But before, I really never noticed the lack of women in history classes because I never really had anything to base that lack on. None of my classes ever focused on including women along with the important male figures. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously now I can look back and I don't think I can name one time a woman was really emphasized along the other main historical figures that were taught to us, which
Mm-hmm.
only really goes to show how many holes there are in the history that we are taught.
Yeah.
And the history that we are taught circles around the popular figures that are household names already, leaving out the women that did incredibly important work, incredibly important behind the scenes work, and women that were just simply cut out of books due to misogyny. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
I joined National Women's History Alliance because I wanted to deepen my understanding in the history that I was never taught.
Yeah, absolutely. I have also recently become interested in learning more about history, and
Mhm.
I've also noticed that, that there's so much about these important male figures, but you do wonder, what were the women? There were
Yeah,
some awesome stories that throughout history, and we're not getting as many of those
exactly.
stories. So, what difference do you see it making to include those stories of people from different backgrounds, different genders, those that whose voices are typically left out? What difference do you see that making?
I've thought about this question a lot as the deeper I get into my own education because I want to go into the medical field and
Mhm.
that often feels really unachievable, like unreachable almost. But
Mm,
when you look at the statistics, a large percentage of the people that are in the medical field are women. Like a large percentage of that are Asian women. So it really
mm,
shouldn't feel as though like these fields are out of reach to young women. But because men are often taught, white men are often taught as being the heads of the fields, as being the ones to have been made these important discoveries, it feels as though women don't really have a place in these fields, which make it really seem out of reach to young
mm,
women, to young minorities who have big dreams. So teaching a wide history, teaching a diverse history, only allows more people to get into unattainable or hard to get into fields.
mhm. Yeah, that's a wonderful point. Yeah, I wonder, do you have a favorite story about a woman in history that has really stuck with you that you've learned about and you said, "Oh, that's so neat. I wish this story were told more." And it's okay if nothing comes to
Mm.
mind. I know that wasn't a um, question we included, but I'm curious if you
No.
have
I might not be answering your exact question, but this is a story I heard. And I'm gonna be honest, I have not fact checked this, but it's really interesting. And I think it goes to show the importance a diverse background and having diverse people in different fields can make. And it's a story about a mother who was um, just being a mother, and there were these people working on an archaeology dig. They were figuring out things that happened in the past by looking at these historical artifacts, and they could not figure out what this one artifact did
Hmm.
until this woman came along and was like, "Oh, that was something that a mother used. This was something that could help her children." And without having that understanding of being a mother, of having
Mhm,
this diverse background, these men may have never figured out what this object
mhm,
could have been used for. And that just shows how important having various people, having diverse people included in your fields are. It's not just something that is, um, dang, what's the word? It's not something that is, um, let's see.
But I like that story. That's,
Yeah,
just we all have different spheres of knowledge,
exactly.
and
Yeah.
um, without including women or other different voices, then we're losing out on those important voices. So
Exactly.
I'm really glad that, even though it was um, a negative that maybe brought you
Mhm.
to where you are, um, it pushed you to say, I'm gonna see what's out there. I want to join the National Women's History Alliance. And you became a board member in high school, and that's just awesome, that you don't see too many board members at young ages. So tell us a little bit more about the National Women's History Alliance, and how it was involved in starting National Women's History Month.
Yeah, for sure. And something I learned from one of my classes, it's a class teaching about how to be equitable in education, is that every child, every student has a fund of knowledge. You know, they have something important to bring to the classroom that is in a way expensive. It is it is an important aspect of children that they might even not even know that they have this information in them. They may not even know they have this knowledge, but
Mhm,
but by including diverse
mhm.
backgrounds, we have so many experiences in one place that we can call back upon that will only help us in the future. But for National Women's History Alliance, you know, I love talking about the National Women's History Alliance because whenever I meet new people and I tell them about it, they are always so impressed with the organization's involvement in starting Women's History Month. But not one single person I've ever met has heard of it, which is insane when you think
Mhm.
about how well known and how widespread the use of Women's History Month is.
Yeah.
But what National Women's History Alliance did was convince Congress and the White House in 1980 to dedicate the week of March 8th, which is International Women's Day,
Mhm.
as National Women's History Week. And then by 1987, they were able to extend that to a whole month, which became March, National Women's History Month.
That's
And
amazing.
now every year we work to choose a new theme and highlight women from different backgrounds to keep the celebrations going. You know, these are landmark events that happened and they're something to celebrate.
That's awesome. So what's this year's theme?
The theme is moving forward together and it's women educating and inspiring generations, which is really cool and
Yeah.
I think applies to me many different ways because I'm also interested in going to the education field. So
Mhm.
having these two parts of my life really collide is super cool and makes me so invested in this organization.
Absolutely. I
Mhm.
love that. Yeah, and Pandia, I've been here a couple of years now, and we definitely believe in building a strong history foundation that includes those different voices,
Mhm.
teaches critical thinking, helping kids actively engage and be good citizens of their country. And we made sure to include civics in our History Quest United States. Um, what advice would you give kids and teens who want to get involved in a cause or an initiative?
Mhm. Well, I said this before how I wasn't even all that interested in women's history before I joined National Women's History Alliance, but going from that for kids and teens who are in a similar position to me, even if you don't think you're interested in learning about history or want to dive in, getting involved into a cause or a club that's at your school or an initiative, my one recommendation is to just try it once. Just go to one club meeting, just look up one organization that you
Mhm,
think would be cool. And if you don't like it, then you can figure out something you want to do based off the things you don't want to do. It can never hurt you to just try. But
mhm,
if but like I did, I went and joined this organization because I saw the website and I thought it was cool.
mhm.
And now I can say that I'm never willingly leaving it because of all that I've learned and how
Mhm.
invested I am in it.
Well, and I think some of your interest in
Mm.
joining this organization came out of the Equity Club.
Yes,
Can you tell me a
yes.
little bit more about what the Equity Club that you were a part of was about?
Yeah, so in every club, we celebrated people of different celebrations. So we worked on, in school, we never celebrated like the different history months. So we
Mm,
worked on including that, showing, putting posters of different people of different cultures who've done really important things that no one really knows about. So we worked a lot with including people of different histories and backgrounds.
mhm,
And so when it came to March time and I was researching different women to include, women to talk about, I came along National Women's History Alliance and I
mm,
was like, wow, I've never heard of this organization
mhm,
and they've done something so important that
mhm,
everyone should know about. So I went ahead and joined. And that's where I became interested in women's history. So
mhm,
I've always been interested in equity because as a woman of color, like,
mhm.
that's my history.
Yeah.
So being able to um, be part of this organization is really important for me as I want to be sure that I'm helping people who are similar to me.
Absolutely. Let's see. How about a few fun questions? Do you have a favorite time in history that you've enjoyed learning about that um, has just been your favorite?
Let's see. Favorite time in history, I would say, okay, I would love to say the early 1800s because of Bridgerton, but of course, the stories of like the poor people at that time were a very, very different one than the one that's shown in the story. So I might say the late 1900s because I think there was many landmark events for civil rights and equity that
Oh,
happened
yeah.
around then. And when I think about that, when I learned about that in school, it really sparked hope for me that like things can change and we can make the world a better place for people, for everyone living in it.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
I
say.
think that's great. One of the stories that we tell in History Quest United States is an 8-year-old girl who participated in um, a Capitol crawl in the 90s
Hmm.
to help pass the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Wow.
And that was a story actually I didn't know. And I was
Okay.
alive then, but I was just a little kid. So I don't remember hearing that in the news. And I love that we tell that story. So I think yeah, that's a great time. And of
Mm.
course, I also love the early 1800s. I recognize that the stories of
Mhm.
Bridgerton or Jane Austen are a very specific
Yeah, yeah,
subset
yeah.
of the
Mhm.
population, and it's not indicative of all the people who were
Mhm.
living at that time in Britain or elsewhere. But it is fun,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
yeah. So let's see what else here. All right. How about if you could solve a local or world problem?
Mm.
Um, you know, you have a fairy godmother wand and you can just wave it, say
Okay,
bibbity
okay,
bobbity
okay.
boo.
Mhm.
What would you choose?
Mm. Okay. Um, well, I guess so since in my future I want to go to medical school. Yeah, I want to become a doctor.
Mhm,
And so if I could just like snap my fingers and something would be solved completely, I would really want to live in a world where I think people don't have to die for not having the money to pay for medicine or the hospital. I want to be a doctor in a country where medical bills aren't these huge debts
mhm,
and weights on people's backs like it is often in America, because I don't think anyone should have to die due to not having enough money. I just feel like
yeah,
that isn't a proper cause of
mhm,
ending someone's life.
mhm.
So if I could just snap my fingers and a world problem would be gone, I would probably end that. Yeah.
That's wonderful. It has been just an absolute delight talking with you, Kruthi, and I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate your taking time to sit down and chat with us and just show us what a beautiful example you are of
Thank you.
seeing something and saying, you know what? I can be that change. I can help make a difference. And I'm really excited to see where you go, what you do, and seeing your name, after some in the headlines, having done some wonderful things. So thank you so much for your time.
Of course, I really appreciate you having me on here.
Of course.